Hi. When we talk about multicultural children's literature and we're discussing families, it's incumbent upon us to also make sure that we are representing families that don't necessarily fit societal norms. Although the families nowadays are becoming more mainstream that have lesbian mothers or gay fathers, and so I do want to encourage you to make sure that you show books that have families that reflect those families as well. And I'd like to read you Heather Has Two Mommies. But first, before I want to read you this book, I'd like to read you what the note says from the author. As the author of Heather Has Two Mommies, I have been called the most dangerous writer living in America today. When I wrote the book in 1988, I had no idea it would ever get published, let alone become one of the most challenged books of the 1990s. Though I have been repeatedly accused of having a militant political agenda, my goal in writing the book was simply to tell a story. The idea for Heather Has Two Mommies came about one day when I was walking down Main Street in Northampton, Massachusetts, a town known for its liberalism, tolerance of difference, and large lesbian population. On this particular day, I ran into a woman who, along with her female partner, had recently welcomed a child into their home. "We have no books to read our daughter that show our type of family," the woman said. "Somebody should write one." Well, I thought, I'm somebody who knows firsthand what it's like to grow up without seeing families just like her own in books and in films or on TV. I grew up in a Jewish family in a Jewish neighborhood. I was surrounded by families that looked like my family, families that dressed in similar clothes, families that ate similar foods. Yet I asked my parents over and over, why can't we have a Christmas tree? Why can't I hunt for Easter eggs? Since I had never read a book or seen a TV show or movie about a young Jewish girl with frizzy brown hair eating matzo ball soup with her bube on a Friday night, I was convinced there was something wrong with my family. My family didn't look like any of the families I saw in my picture books or on my television set. My family was different. My family was wrong. Of course, as a child, I was not aware of the power of the media. I was not aware of this yearning to see a family like my own reflected in the culture at large, nor could I articulate this need. As a grown woman who happens to be a Jewish lesbian, I am painfully aware of the lack of positive images or even any images of myself in the media. I believe that had I had those images and role models at an early age, the experience would have greatly enhanced my self-esteem. And so I took on the challenge of writing Heather Has Two Mommies. My only goal being to create a book that would help children with lesbian mothers feel good about themselves and their families. I sent Heather to over 50 publishers. Children's book presses told me to try lesbian publishers. Lesbian publishers told me to try children's book presses. When a whole year had gone by with no luck, Zivia Gover, a friend who was a lesbian mother, and I decided to publish the book ourselves. We sent out a fundraising letter promising a copy of the book in exchange for a donation of $10 or more. $4,000 later, promising, or my theory, was proven. There was an enthusiastic audience out there eager for a book that displayed a child and her two lesbian mothers in a positive way. In December of 1989, the first copies of Heather Has Two Mommies rolled off the presses. There wasn't a huge reaction to the book. I got a few letters from lesbian mothers telling me how grateful they were, and one letter from a 6-year-old named Tasha who wrote, "Thank you for writing Heather Has Two Mommies. I know that you wrote it just for me." I heard about a little boy who received 3 copies of the book for his birthday and slept with all of them under his pillow every night. I also spoke with a heterosexual woman whose child was enthralled with the book. "He asks to hear it every night," she told me, "and he wants to know why he only has one mom." A sophisticated child who lives with her lesbian mom and her mom's partner asked, "How come Heather has 2 mommies and I have one mommy and one parent?" Another child with 2 moms was completely nonplussed about the whole thing. When his mothers read him the book and asked him what he thought, he simply said, "Can we get a dog and a cat like Heather?" I have not yet heard of a child having an adverse reaction to the book. Adults, however, are another story. That's not very surprising, is it? In 1990, Allison Publications started Alice in Wonderland, a line of books for children with gay and lesbian parents. Allison bought out the rights to Heather and also published Daddy's Roommate. The books got a little more publicity at that time, but all remained quiet until 1992, when three major conflicts arose surrounding Heather and Daddy's Roommate. The first conflict occurred in Portland, Oregon, where Lon Mabon had launched an anti-gay campaign, trying to amend the state constitution to allow discrimination against lesbians and gay men. During meetings of his organization, the Oregon Citizens Alliance, copies of Heather and Daddy's Roommate were passed around as evidence of the militant homosexual agenda Mabon felt was sweeping the nation. On November 3rd, 1992, citizens of Oregon voted, and the OCA measure was defeated. The second controversy surrounding Heather Has Two Mommies and Daddy's Roommate took place in schools and public libraries around the country. As if there were a concerted effort, the books began disappearing from library shelves from coast to coast. When Allison Publications learned of this, the company offered to send replacement copies to the first 500 libraries that called. Almost as soon as word went out, 500 calls came in. Librarians, for the most part, rallied around the books and defended freedom of expression as a vital principle upon which this country is based. Some libraries moved the books to the adult section, and some libraries put the books in a special request section. However, by and large, Heather Has Two Mommies and Daddy's Roommate remained on the shelves. I was and continue to be amazed by all this fuss. It seems to me that a disproportionate number of parents live in fear of their child's reading just one book with a gay character in it. For such exposure will, in these parents' minds, cause their child to grow up to be lesbian or gay. It is usually useless to point out that the vast majority of lesbians and gay men have been brought up by heterosexual parents and spent countless hours of their childhood reading hundreds of books about heterosexual characters. Fear is an irrational thing. The third controversy took place in New York City around the Rainbow Curriculum, a 443-page bibliography that was designed to teach respect for all types of families. In these 443 pages, three paragraphs mention books with gay characters and themes. These books were not required to be taught or read in the classroom. They, along with hundreds of other books, were merely suggestions. School Chancellor Joseph Fernandez was a staunch supporter of the Rainbow Curriculum. In a New York Daily News interview dated September 6, 1992, he said, and I quote, "If we're ever going to get this country together, we have to deal with these issues of hate. Kids learn biases from us, from adults. We have to teach them tolerance through education," end quote. Unfortunately, many people did not agree with Chancellor Fernandez, including Mary Cummins, president of School District 24 in Queens. In an interview with New York Newsday dated April 23, 1992, she said the Rainbow Curriculum says, quote, "Teachers must tell children that all families are not heterosexual. We can't do that in the first grade," end quote. And why not, I wonder? Why not teach children in the first grade or in any other grade the truth? After a long and bitter battle, the Rainbow Curriculum was amended, and Heather Has Two Mommies and Daddy's Roommate were removed from its pages. For those who do not want children exposed to this type of family, I ask this: how can you possibly assume that every child sitting in your classroom or library comes from a home with a mother and father? How can you presume that there are no children in your classroom or library with lesbian or gay parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents, neighbors, and friends? What messages are you giving to all children when you pretend there's only one type of family and render the rest invisible? All children, including children of lesbian and gay parents, will only benefit as more books on the subject of diversity get published. In the words of two grown children, Stephen Lynch and Emily Omerick, co-directors of Collage, Children of Lesbians and Gay Everywhere, in a letter dated January 1994 and written to 10% Magazine, quote, "Those of us raised in alternative families, especially lesbian and gay families, have grown up feeling invisible without knowing why. As the next generation grows up, they'll have resources like Newman's book in which they can see themselves reflected and therefore validated." That's by Leslie Newman. Now I will read it. Heather Has Two Mommies, written by Leslie Newman, illustrated by Diana Souza. Heather lives in a little house with a big apple tree in the front yard and lots of tall grass in the backyard. Heather's favorite number is 2. She has 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 hands, and 2 feet. She also has 2 pets, a ginger-colored cat named Ginger Snap and a big black dog named Midnight. Heather also has 2 mommies, Mama Jane and Mama Kate. Mama Kate is a doctor. Heather likes to listen to her heartbeat with a real stethoscope. When Mama Kate has a headache, Heather gives her 2 aspirin to make her feel better. When Heather has a cut on her knee, Mama Kate puts 2 bandages on it. Mama Jane is a carpenter. Heather likes to look in her toolbox where she finds nails and screws and a long yellow tape measure. Mama Jane has 2 hammers, a big one for herself and a little one for Heather. On weekends, Heather and her 2 mommies spend lots of time together. On sunny days, they go to the park. On rainy days, they stay inside and bake cookies. Heather likes to eat 2 ginger snaps and drink a big glass of milk. One day, Mama Kate and Mama Jane tell Heather they have a surprise for her. "You're going to be in a play group," Mama Kate says, "with lots of other kids and a teacher named Molly," Mama Jane says. "Can Midnight and Ginger Snap come too?" Heather asks. "No, they have to stay home," Mama Jane says. "But you can bring 2 special things with you," says Mama Kate. Heather picks out her favorite blue blanket to sleep with at nap time and her favorite red cup to drink out of at lunchtime. The next day, Mama Kate and Mama Jane take Heather to Molly's house. Molly has lots of fun things to play with: books and puzzles, crayons and paint, building blocks and dress-up clothes. There's a big round table where Heather can eat her lunch and a quiet corner where Heather can take her nap. While Mama Jane and Mama Kate talk to Molly, Heather puts 2 puzzles together all by herself. Soon the other children come and it's time for Mama Jane and Mama Kate to leave. They kiss Heather goodbye and Heather cries, but only a little. When Heather's at Molly's house, she builds a big tower out of building blocks and gets all dressed up like a firefighter. She paints 2 pictures at the easel, one for Mama Jane and one for Mama Kate. She drinks apple juice out of her favorite red cup at lunchtime, and she sleeps in the quiet corner with her favorite blue blanket at nap time. After nap time, everyone sits in a circle and Molly reads them a story about a little boy whose father is a veterinarian. He takes care of dogs and cats and birds and fish and hamsters when they get sick. "My daddy's a doctor too," Juan says, pointing at the book. "He takes care of sick people." "My daddy's a teacher," David says. "Once I went to his school with him." "I don't have a daddy," Heather says. She'd never thought about it before. Did everyone except Heather have a daddy? Heather's forehead crinkles up and she begins to cry. Molly picks up Heather and gives her a hug. "Not everyone has a daddy," Molly says. "You have 2 mommies. That's pretty special. Miriam doesn't have a daddy either. She has a mommy and a baby sister. That's pretty special too." "I don't have any mommies. I have 2 daddies," Stacy says proudly. "I have 2 daddies too," Joshua says. "My mommy and my stepdaddy live in a blue house and my daddy lives by himself in a yellow house." Let's all draw pictures of our families, Molly says. The children all sit at the big round table and Molly hands out paper and crayons. Juan has a mommy and a daddy and a big brother named Carlos. Miriam's mommy is pushing her baby sister on a swing in a park. Stacy likes to sit between her two daddies on the big red couch in their living room and listen to a story. Joshua's mommy and stepfather are dropping him off at his daddy's house. David's mommy and daddy adopted him, his two brothers, and his big sister. Molly hangs up all the pictures and everyone looks at them. It doesn't matter how many mommies or how many daddies your family has, Molly says to the children. It doesn't matter if your family has sisters or brothers or cousins or grandmothers or grandfathers or uncles or aunts. Each family is special. The most important thing about a family is that all the people in it love each other. Soon, Heather's mommies come to take her home. Ginger Snap and Midnight come too. First, Heather shows them all the pictures. Is that me? Mama Kate asks, pointing at Heather's picture. And is that me? Mama Jane asks, pointing too. This is the mommy I love the best, Heather says, pointing to the mommy who has big round glasses just like Mama Kate. And this is the mommy I love the best, Heather says, pointing to the mommy who has short red hair just like Mama Jane. Mama Kate and Mama Jane both laugh and give Heather a great big hug. Heather gives each of her mommies 2 kisses before she takes their hands and heads for home. And that is the end. I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope you find some more books. Maybe there's another book that shows different types of families. All right. Have a good one.